Hello and welcome to this presentation of creating a social dialogue about air and health. I'm excited that you've now joined hundreds of others in the health promotion and environmental stewardship arena to learn more today about how to make your communication more effective. My name is Sharon Stevens. I'm the CEO of Communication Solutions, leaders in marketing for outdoor health. I'm pleased to be your host today. This presentation was originally presented live at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and National Association of Clean Air Agencies 2011 National Air Quality Conference. My plan for the next 15 minutes is to change the way you approach your communication challenges and encourage you to share information in a way that really helps your organization create and sustain a social dialogue about air quality, health, and air quality stewardship. I'll be using some examples from our air quality outreach program we developed in British Columbia, Canada for Canada's Air Quality Health Index to demonstrate a point. In fact, it's the main point of my presentation today. It's my goal that at the end of this presentation, you'll be inspired to re-evaluate your air quality, health promotion, and environmental stewardship outreach messages and tools, and perhaps modify them slightly based on what you hear in the next 15 minutes. If you're active on these social media channels, please join in the conversation and feel free to share what you hear from me today, your insights, and your opinion on the topic. We've spent the past 2 decades in health and environment marketing communication. Since 2005, on behalf of Health Canada, Environment Canada, numerous provincial governments, and a host of environmental and health NGOs, we've developed numerous air quality outreach plans and tools. And over that time, we've noticed a pattern among many air quality health and environmental stewardship programs that concerns us. The pattern, too much focus in many outreach and communication programs on telling people what to do. That's the final stages of behavior change communication. And not enough on the messaging and tools for the stages of communication that precede behavior change. For just a moment, I'd like you to imagine with me a time in the future when everyone clearly understands how air quality affects them based on their personal risk factors. Their personalized mobile device monitors the air quality around them and calibrates it to their personal level of risk, which is accessed from their cloud-hosted electronic health file. It calculates a prescribed daily level of activity, and because of their awareness and engagement, they would only drive their electric car on alternating days, and no one would dream of burning their yard waste. Oh, and finally, they voted in municipal, state, and federal leaders that have promised and are keeping their commitments to regulate and reward improved air quality. About 20 years ago, I heard someone describe what they called a dream machine, a personal tablet computer that you'd navigate through touch. And I had the same reaction you may have had to the scenario I just described. But today, with my iPhone and iPad by my side, I suggest to you that the future will surprise us. But the foundation of how we get people's attention, increase their awareness and understanding, and motivate them toward action will remain the same. I'm going to assume that you're listening to this webinar because you too share a collective goal of inspiring people to change their behavior, either to protect their own health or to be active stewards of the environment. This is the Holy Grail, behavior change. Well, why then, despite continuous resources devoted to promoting the importance of air quality and the indices that monitor and report it, do so few people seek out air quality information on a regular basis? The answer, at least one of the answers, is because behavior change happens in stages. and the communication designed to support behavior change must address each stage to be truly effective. Look, there's no end to the study of behavior change communication. Just Google it and you'll find great resources. Most commonly, behavior change is described as a hierarchy that suggests that before people will take action, they have to tune into the message, attend to it, maintain interest in it, understand it, think about it, agree with it, then store it in their memory, and then decide to act on it. Our team at Communication Solutions has simplified these theories into 4 stages of communication to ensure our clients and colleagues focus on their message strategies required within each stage. Because what we want you to do after today is consider these 4 stages of communication before crafting your messages and tools. The first stage is a mandatory stage in all communication, but it's often the most challenging stage to address and the most commonly skipped stage. This stage is especially challenging when your topic is complex, like air quality, health, and environmental stewardship. Every one of the people in our outreach audience is continually making decisions about what's personally relevant to them and important enough to earn a spot on their mental shelf. So how do we get and sustain their attention? Well, not by overloading them with complex details. I'm using humor and exaggeration to make my point here. But if you've been working in the health and environment arena for a while, this may be the most important point I make. And it's that it's critical at this stage, in fact, in all stages, that your communication does not suffer from what we call the curse of knowledge. It's a condition that happens when we forget what it's like to not know what we know. Most of us travel in circles where the majority of people we talk to are often already interested or informed about our topic. You know them, the people who evaluate health and environmental stewardship policies, who sit on committees, perhaps they're already tweeting about air pollution and health. But the other 99% of the population, the ones we pass in the supermarket or we sit near in a coffee shop, they have very little understanding of of air, its relationship to their health, or the indices that measure and report it. These people are either not convinced that it's relevant to them, or they're newly curious. Too often, because of the curse of knowledge, the outreach messages and tools that we've come across, keep in mind we're actively looking for them, focus on things like index numbers and individual pollutants and recommended behaviors and other calls to action. But before someone is going to tune into these kinds of messages, they need to first say, aha, yes, this affects me, and I should pay attention to it. How do we make that happen? Well, Chip and Dan Heath, the authors of the New York Times bestseller Made to Stick, they state it with such simplicity. They say you do it by digging the hole before you try to fill it in. They explain that curiosity happens to people when they feel there's a gap in their knowledge. So our job is to open gaps in the first stages of communication before we close them with too much detail. In Canada, and more specifically in British Columbia, we enjoy some of the best air quality in the world, a fact that was recently confirmed by the World Health Organization. However, we do have regional variations as well as hundreds of forest fires each summer, and during those times the air quality can get pretty bad. So, using our work on Canada's Air Quality Health Index as an example, we accepted that in British Columbia, and likely across the country, the majority of people, most of the time, have a gap in their knowledge related to air quality, its effects on their health, let alone the indices that measure and report it. We did not believe that our audience was instinctively curious about the air. And our approach was later validated thanks to the efforts of our federal government partners who funded a series of focus tests across Canada to find out what people thought about air quality and Canada's new Air Quality Health Index. These focus tests included a cross-section of the population, your average Canadian, and the results were no surprise. They confirmed there is indeed a knowledge gap related to air and health. To make my point, here's an example of what the Canadian focus group participants said when asked about the air and how it affects them. Don't forget, they were giving this question their undivided attention. I remember as clear as day when one woman announced that she couldn't wait to tell her friends about her new revelation that the air could be having an effect on how she feels. In British Columbia, our Stage 2 outreach messages focused on the knowledge gap that exists and proposed that air was something people needed to get to know. Air, get to know it. Our goal was to use the power of curiosity to help the unaware become more aware of what they needed to know. We applied the theory of digging the hole before starting to fill it in. And here's a few examples of how this theory was expressed in Stage 2 messages of the British Columbia Air Quality Outreach Campaign. You use it every 3 seconds. Isn't it time you got to know it? You've used it since the moment you were born. Isn't it time you got to know it? You can't live without it. Isn't it time you got to know it? We also produced a radio commercial public service announcement that took advantage of this approach to digging the hole and then filling it in with a little bit of humor. Have a listen.
The latest research indicates almost 100% of all humans require air for even the most basic life-supporting functions. That includes breathing. So if you're among the 100%, know more about your air at airhealth.ca. For the other 0%, as you were. Introducing the Air Quality Health Index. Visit airhealth.ca. Get to know it.
These messages were repeatedly expressed through the participation and support of regional governments, healthcare organizations, non-government organizations, and advocacy groups that served as outreach champions to help spread the message among their networks and through health and environment events, paid media, and social media. You'll notice that all of these outreach messages and tools in the first 2 stages of communication focused on the core of the idea that air quality is something people should know more about, and not on the details of an index or a desired behavior. Not yet. Okay, you've got their attention and interest. You've got people thinking there's something they should know that they don't already know. Now you can start filling in the hole. You're at communication stage 3, increasing understanding. The goal at this stage is to ensure that the information you provide supports increased understanding, and even at this stage, messages should remain as simple and as unintimidating as possible. In British Columbia, the Air Quality Health Index campaign had a website dedicated to addressing each of the stages of communication. It hosted the actual index, searchable by community, but it was not the index itself that people would land on, because not everyone who would visit the website would be at stage 4. They might still be at the curious stage. So in addition to providing the index within only 1 click, we also provided consistently branded messages to address stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 goals along the way. So we're now at stage 4, where the goal is to reassure your audience's intent to act. The messages in this final stage now need to be more detailed, more reassuring, and they can be concrete and include clear calls to action. In British Columbia, the stage 4 messages that were used in the campaign here were about the Air Quality Health Index and said now, know the number, protect your health. Even at this stage, the simple messages from stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 were always included, because to ask people from the outset to use a new air quality index to protect their health or be better stewards of the environment is to assume there is no knowledge gap. And we've already established there is one. At the end of the day, air quality outreach is about people and their individual relationship to air. Each person will be at a different stage in this relationship. Communication designed to support behavior change is a continuum, and you really don't know what stage people are at when they're exposed to your message. So don't take it for granted that they're tuning in or joining the conversation because they want detailed information. They may be exercising their new curiosity about air quality, health, and air quality stewardship for the very first time. We've provided a worksheet in the resources section of our website. It's called the 4 Stages of Communication Worksheet. It's a simple way for you to evaluate whether or not your outreach messages are addressing all 4 stages of behavior change communication. It helps you think about how you're inviting audiences at each stage to engage with your organization, its issues, and its messages. And I'd like you to make a commitment to yourself. Take 10 minutes after this webinar, download the worksheet from our website, and then ask yourself these important questions. Are the majority of your outreach messages aimed at the action stage, with lots of detail about an index or desired behaviors? Would equally as many fall into the awareness and understanding stages, where your goal is to dig the hole and start filling in that knowledge gap with only the appropriate amount of information required to sustain someone's interest and understanding? Does enough of your communication messages and tools address stage 1, getting attention? This critically important stage where people stop and say, what is this about? Is there something I should know? And does this deserve a place on my mental shelf today? Thank you so much for your attention today. I encourage you to keep in touch.